You and Diddy, you and Puff cool?
No, I don't really rock.
Okay, damn.
I'm at a point in my life, like, we all grew up in the streets, and we try to be better, but...
Bothering me is that being a celebrity sometimes comes with, like, everybody wants to be successful in a celebrity and stuff like that, but it comes with, you know, bullshit sometimes, and, you know, that's the only thing that I hate about it.
And when I say people respond, how people respond to things matter, like the internet will take to it and just go off with it. Meek responds being the uncomfortability. He goes, yo, nah, I gotta spend $100,000 to find out why my name is in this like this. And it's in it only because he's uncomfortable. You don't hear him talking about French. French was right there.
Nobody laughed when this dropped. That's how you know it was different. The second the words 50 Cent, Jaguar Wright, and leaked recordings started circulating in the same sentence, the entire hip-hop industry did something unusual. It went quiet. No jokes, no clowning. No, this is fake energy, just silence. And in an industry that thrives on noise, silence is the loudest alarm of all. Because let's be real, Jaguar Wright has been calling out industry secrets for years. People brushed her off, mocked her, labeled her everything except quiet. But when 50 Cent's name entered the chat, the tone shifted instantly. This stopped sounding like conspiracy talk and started feeling like pressure. The kind of pressure that makes group chats light up behind the scenes while timelines stay suspiciously calm. This didn't feel like a random leak. It felt calculated. Like something that wasn't supposed to surface yet. Like audio that existed as leverage, not entertainment. And the wildest part? Nobody rushed to shut it down. No immediate lawsuits. No confident denials. Just careful reactions and a whole lot of people pretending they didn't see it because 50 Cent doesn't play chess on Instagram. He plays it in real life. And Jaguar Wright doesn't speak unless she believes something needs to be exposed. So when those two forces collide around alleged recordings, it sends one clear message. Somebody's secrets are no longer safe. Fans are divided. Critics are nervous. And the industry is watching every move like the next shoe is about to drop. Hip-hop has survived everything. Beef, betrayals, lawsuits, snitching rumors, even public downfalls that looked like career extinction events. So when people say the industry was stunned, that word usually gets thrown around loosely, but this time, it fit uncomfortably well. Because when 50 Cent and Jaguar Wright became linked to alleged leaked recordings, the reaction wasn't chaos, it was hesitation. And hesitation in hip-hop is never accidental. This didn't arrive with a countdown. There was no rollout, no teaser clips, no big announcement. Coming soon, energy. It surfaced the worst possible way, quietly, ambiguously, and without context. And that's exactly how things land when they weren't meant to be public. The moment the story broke, timelines didn't explode with jokes. They slowed down. People watched instead of posting. Big personalities suddenly had nothing to say. That alone raised alarms, because Jaguar Wright is no stranger to controversy. She's been accusing the music industry of protecting secrets, abusing power, and silencing people for years. For a long time, her claims were dismissed as bitter rants, emotional outbursts, or attention-seeking spirals. That dismissal worked. Until it didn't, because patterns matter. And when someone keeps talking long enough, eventually the room gets nervous. Now add 50 Cent to that equation. 50 doesn't randomly attach himself to chaos. He studies it. He weaponizes it. He waits. His entire career has been built on understanding timing better than almost anyone in entertainment. So the moment his name entered the conversation around alleged recordings, the energy shifted instantly. People stopped asking if something was happening and started asking how bad it could get. At first, fans assumed exaggeration. Another internet rumor inflated for clicks. Another industry-exposed headline that would flame out in 24 hours. But the reaction patterns told a different story. Nobody rushed to clown Jaguar Wright this time. Nobody confidently declared the story fake. And most importantly, nobody powerful laughed. That's when the tension became real. Because if this were harmless, it would have been buried in jokes. If this were fake, denials would have come fast. Instead, there was caution. And caution only appears when people don't know what else might surface. The alleged recordings themselves almost became secondary. The real fear wasn't what had leaked, it was the implication that more exists. Audio implies documentation. Documentation implies history. And history is dangerous when it's been hidden behind NDAs, money, and influence. Hip-hop doesn't fear rumors. Hip-hop fears receipts. And Jaguar Wright's entire reputation, love her or hate her, is built around one thing: refusing to stay quiet when everyone else benefits from silence. She's been wrong before. She's been messy before. But she's also said things in the past that aged a little too well. And the industry knows that. That's why this moment felt different. The internet immediately split into camps. One side dismissed everything as conspiracy, insisting Jaguar Wright has cried wolf too many times. The other side leaned into suspicion, pointing out how strangely careful the industry response felt. And then there was the third group, the quiet observers, the ones who weren't posting, weren't debating, but were clearly paying attention. Those are the most dangerous watchers of all. 50 Cent's presence made it worse. Because his reputation isn't built on speculation. It's built on survival. He's outlasted beefs, indictments, industry politics, and media hit jobs. When he positions himself near controversy, it's rarely accidental. And even when he jokes, there's usually an undercurrent that says, "I know something you don't."
That's
What unsettled people. This wasn't framed like entertainment. It didn't feel like clout chasing. It felt like leverage being acknowledged without being fully revealed. And leverage is the one thing that makes powerful people nervous. Meme pages tried to jump in, but the jokes felt forced. You could sense creators hesitating, unsure whether it was safe to clown this situation. Humor usually comes fast online. When it doesn't, it's because the subject feels too close to reality. Industry insiders started moving weird. Subtweets popped up with vague language about truth, timing, and things coming to light. No names, no details. Just enough smoke to keep speculation alive. And speculation is oxygen when receipts might exist. What made this entire situation volatile was the combination of reputations. Jaguar Wright represents a voice the industry couldn't silence completely. 50 Cent represents power that doesn't need permission. Together, even loosely, that pairing rattles systems built on control. And make no mistake, this wasn't about morality, it was about narrative control. The music industry survives by deciding which stories live and which ones die. Alleged recordings threaten that control. Because once audio exists, spin becomes harder, denial becomes riskier, silence becomes suspicious. The industry didn't panic publicly. It froze, and freezing is what happens when people don't know. How many moves are left on the board? By the end of the first wave, one thing was undeniable: the story wasn't going to disappear quietly. Too many people were watching. Too many reactions felt measured. Too many accounts chose silence instead of jokes. The first instinct of the internet is always humor. If something feels uncomfortable, it gets memed.
If it feels dangerous, it gets
Joked into submission. That's how timelines protect themselves from reality. But this time, the jokes didn't stick. They slid off like bad punchlines in a room that suddenly got serious. Meme pages tried. They really did. Screenshots with sarcastic captions. Old clips remixed with dramatic music. Industry exposed jokes stacked on top of jokes. But you could feel the hesitation behind the humor. The punchlines were softer. The captions were cautious. Because nobody wanted to be the account that laughed too hard at something that might age terribly. That's when people noticed something weird. Big voices weren't touching it. Artists who usually thrive on controversy went quiet. Influencers who never miss a trending topic suddenly had nothing to say. Even commentary pages known for reckless takes slowed their roll. The absence was louder than any viral post. Because when clout chasers skip clout, it means the room feels unsafe. And then came the celebrity reactions, careful, coded and calculated. Some figures posted vague messages about truth always coming to light. Others talked about timing. and energy shifts without naming names. A few leaned into the safest lane possible. Prayers for everyone involved. Translation? I'm not touching this, but I want to look like I noticed. In internet language, that's fear dressed as concern. Meanwhile, Jaguar Wright's past resurfaced in full force. Clips from years ago flooded timelines, stitched together like a highlight reel of warnings people once laughed at. The internet started doing that dangerous thing it does best, reframing history. Suddenly, statements that were once dismissed as wild sounded uncomfortable, not proven, not confirmed, just uncomfortably familiar. And familiarity is where doubt creeps in. The discourse split fast. One side insisted this was the same cycle Jaguar makes claims. The internet spirals, nothing concrete happens. They argued that giving oxygen to alleged recordings without full context was irresponsible. The other side countered with a different concern. If this is nothing, why is everyone moving so carefully? That question hung in the air like smoke. 50 Cent's shadow loomed over every conversation, even when he wasn't posting. Because 50 doesn't need to speak loudly to be heard. His history does that for him. When his name appears near controversy, people assume strategy. They assume leverage. They assume chess, not checkers. So every silence was interpreted. Every delay was analyzed. Every non-response became a theory. The internet doesn't wait for facts, it builds narratives in the gaps. Public outrage arrived late but loud. Not outrage at what was allegedly leaked, but outrage at the idea that the industry could be hiding things. That's always the trigger. The audience isn't shocked by scandal anymore. It's shocked by the possibility that it's been kept in the dark on purpose. And once that thought takes hold, trust evaporates fast. Pop culture comparisons exploded. People said this felt like the moment before a documentary drops. Others compared it to the calm before a legal storm. One viral comment summed it up perfectly. This feels less like tea and more like someone letting the industry know they have receipts. That line spread fast because it captured the mood. Receipts don't have to be shown to change behavior. The threat of them is often enough. Industry insiders started subtweeting each other in circles. No names, no specifics. Just coded language about protecting brands and how fast things can change. It felt like watching a room full of people pretend not to notice the fire alarm while quietly checking where the exits are, and the public noticed that. Fans started asking why nobody was suing, why no one was issuing firm denials, why statements were vague instead of confident. In scandals that are truly fake, denial is loud and immediate. In situations that are complicated, denial gets cautious. And caution is exactly what this felt like. The memes slowed even more, because when jokes dry up online, it's not because people got bored, it's because they got nervous. The platforms themselves added fuel. Algorithms pushed the most speculative clips because speculation drives engagement. Calm explanations sank, wild theories floated. The louder the claim, the further it traveled. And soon the conversation wasn't about recordings anymore. It was about control. Who controls the story? Who decides what's allowed to be said? Who gets protected when things get uncomfortable? That's when the tone shifted again. People stopped asking, "Is this real?" and started asking, "What happens if it is?" That question changes everything. Because now every move mattered. Every post from anyone even remotely connected got scrutinized. Old beefs were re-examined. Past alliances were questioned. And the internet did what it always does when it senses weakness in powerful systems. It leaned in harder. Still, no explosion came. No definitive proof. No clear resolution. Just tension stretched tight enough to hum. And that's the worst kind of viral moment. The kind that doesn't resolve. Because unresolved pressure keeps people watching. By the end of this phase, one thing was clear. The industry wasn't laughing. The internet wasn't satisfied. And too many people were choosing silence over confidence. Once the noise tapered off, the damage didn't. That's the part the internet never waits around to watch. Viral moments burn fast, but fallout moves slowly, quietly, and far more permanently. And after the alleged recordings tied to Jaguar Wright and the shadow of 50 Cent settled into public consciousness, the industry didn't bounce back. It RECALIBRATD. The first thing to change was behavior. People moved differently. Artists who once overshared suddenly went silent. Interviews got safer. Answers got shorter. Jokes disappeared from spaces that used to thrive on reckless humor. It was subtle but noticeable. When an entire culture starts choosing caution over bravado, something has shifted beneath the surface. This wasn't about believing every allegation. It wasn't about proof dropping or not dropping. It was about possibility. The possibility that conversations exist on tape. That moments thought to be private could become public. And once that possibility becomes real in people's minds, trust erodes fast. Reputations entered a strange limbo. Nobody was officially exposed. Nobody was cleared either. And that gray area is the most uncomfortable space to live in. Because in the court of public opinion, unresolved suspicion sticks longer than confirmed guilt ever does. The industry didn't have a villain to exile or a hero to rally behind. It had uncertainty, and uncertainty is corrosive. Jaguar writes. Public image shifted again, but not the way critics expected. She wasn't suddenly embraced as a truth teller, and she wasn't dismissed as noise either. Instead, she became something more dangerous to power structures, unignorable. Even skeptics had to admit that the industry's reaction told its own story. You don't get this level of caution over nothing. 50 Cent's role remained deliberately ambiguous, and that ambiguity was powerful. He didn't need to clarify. He didn't need to escalate. His silence functioned like a reminder. Leverage doesn't need to be exercised to exist. And when someone known for strategic patience stays quiet, people assume there's a reason. Relationships shifted behind the scenes. Alliances tightened. Distance grew where closeness once lived. People became selective about who they spoke freely around. That's always the real impact of moments like this. Not public apologies or statements, but private restraint. Conversations changed tone when people realized the walls might be thinner than they thought. The audience felt it too. Fans didn't move on cleanly. The story lingered in comment sections, forums, and reaction videos long after the headlines cooled. Not because people wanted chaos, but because they wanted closure. And closure never arrived. No definitive proof. No dramatic resolution. Just a quiet understanding that something uncomfortable had brushed too close to the surface. That lack of resolution became the legacy of the moment. Pop culture has trained people to expect explosions, documentaries, trials, tearful confessions. When those don't come, it feels incomplete. But real power rarely reveals itself loudly. It adjusts systems quietly. And that's exactly what happened here. The industry didn't collapse. It didn't confess. It didn't explain. It adapted. And adaptation is what happens when exposure feels possible. Even if it never fully materializes, people start protecting themselves preemptively. They watch what they say. They reconsider old habits. They think twice before assuming privacy is guaranteed. That's why this moment mattered more than most scandals that trend for a week and vanish. It didn't rely on shock alone. It introduced doubt. And doubt sticks. The irony is that the internet eventually moved on, as it always does. New drama replaced old drama. New villains took center stage. But the people inside the industry don't get that luxury. They remember moments like this. They adjust careers around them. They keep mental notes. Because once the idea of exposure enters the room, it never fully leaves. This wasn't a takedown. It wasn't a revelation.
It was a warning, a reminder.
That not every secret stays buried forever. That not every conversation disappears when the door closes. And that power doesn't panic publicly. It tightens privately. The most unsettling part? This story doesn't have an ending. It has consequences. Quiet ones. Lingering ones. The kind that don't trend but reshape behavior over time. So now that the noise has died down and the jokes have packed up, let's talk reality. This wasn't just another viral moment for clicks. This was one of those situations that makes the industry sit back, reread old messages, and suddenly remember where the mute button is. Whether you believe every allegation or not, one thing is undeniable. This moment changed the temperature. Now don't play innocent. You didn't watch this just for entertainment. You watched because something felt off. Something felt real. So drop a comment and say it with your chest. Do you think this was a warning shot or just another internet storm that'll fade away? Is the industry hiding more than it lets on? Or is this all smoke with no fire? Let's hear it. This comment section is where the real debate lives. And if this breakdown kept you locked in, smash that like button like it owes you money, hit subscribe like you're tired of recycled narratives, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next chapter. Because stories like this don't end, they pause. And when they come back, they usually come back louder. This channel isn't here to sugarcoat, protect egos, or run PR cleanups. We connect the dots, question the silence, and break down what really shakes power behind the scenes. News scandals drop constantly, and when they do, you already know where to find the real analysis. So stay tapped in with Fame Blueprint, where industry myths get tested, pressure gets exposed, and silence never goes unquestioned.